top of Tzad. 4 lines from the top, it says Shitzi Yatzvi Simen. I don't know what that's a siman for. We're learning about carrying tefillin on Shabbos. You find them in places. The tefillin could become desecrated there. So we had a machlekes, machnisim period of time, at the time. And then we say, yesterday's Rambam, then we say, if they're old tefillin, then this is discussing. You're exempt from saving them. And we said, what is new tefillin? We said that was a kameya. New tefillin, we're concerned that it really wasn't tefillin, it was just an amulet. So we were talking about, does a person really go through the effort to make an amulet from tefillin, and based on a statement about tzitzis? Would a person go through the effort to tie strings of tcheles, to put it together just to be a hem on his clothing? Okay. Hashta the Tani Avua the Shmuel bar of Yitzchak. Now the Shmuel bar of Yitzchak said, if it has straps and it's knotted, those are the ones that you.
Rabbi Smith, the sound quickly went bad. It started out well and now it's not.
He's frozen.
Yeah, he's not hearing me. Avram Nassan, can you hear us? The rabbi is frozen.
I can use my phone also. Yeah. Okay. Let's try, hopefully. It's no good? Okay. Let's see if we can do this. Kuli Alma, that a person, according to everyone, no one would bother to make this into what we're concerned about. We're not concerned about making, going through the effort to make tefillin to make an amulet out of tefillin. Our problem here is that you're not allowed to tie on Shabbos. It's that simple. Tefillin that don't have the knot in them, so then you can't save them because you can't tie a knot on Shabbos. It's a problem of making a keshem. The Gemara has a question. Why don't you make a bow? The whole problem. So make a bow and then you bow. The reason is that why can't you make a bow is because a bow is not kosher knot for be a real. Abaya says Rabbi Yehuda l'tamei damar aniva kshira ma'alaisehi. Abaya says it has a different shot. Making a bow is making a kesher. You're not on shot. So there's a problem here of tying a knot on Shabbos even with the bow. So it's interesting because when this recommendation, maybe you should make a bow. The Gemara was thinking that a bow is going to be fine for tefillin. That's not going to be a problem for tefillin. And even though it's fine for tefillin, it's also going to be fine for Shabbos. Wasn't concerned that if it were for tefillin, that must mean that it wasn't an issue. Never thought about that. The Gemara was saying that the bow would work for tefillin, and it will also work for Shabbos. So it says, no. First, Rav Chizda says that the bow won't work for tefillin. It's not going to be kosher for tefillin. Now, that would only be an issue if I'm trying to put on the tefillin to be Yotze the mitzvah. But we weren't so sure that was the pshat. It could have been Shabbos' man tefillin, or Shabbos maybe. We're going with Shabbos. Save the tefillin on Shabbos because it's the mitzvah. If you're going to make a bow, it's not the mitzvah. Taima, right? If it's a tachshit, maybe it needs on. I don't know. So, Abaya says that according to Rabbi Yehuda, there's a problem with making a bow on Shabbos. But if that wouldn't be an issue, then you would be allowed to make a bow. The problem is, Rav Shmuel Bar Shil is telling me that if Shabbos with making a bow, I'd be allowed to do this. There's a problem that Kesher Shel Tefillin Al Chamish Misina Yovram Rabna. Even if there's no problem with the bow on Shabbos, but there's a problem with using a bow in tefillin. The knot of the tefillin is Allah Chamish Misina. You can't just make up a knot. We're recommending that you can't save the tefillin because you can't make a knot. So we recommend it. So okay, so bow. So we said no, a bow you can't make on Shabbos according to Rabbi Yehuda. It's also considered a knot on Shabbos. So we're saying, but that's the issue. Shabbos. It's halach l'moshe misinai knot. It's not the real knot. The Gemara answers, "Danavlu can kshira didu," that you make the bow, and I guess the Gemara is saying that even though it's not exactly the knot, but it's letters, a dalet, or whatever that's supposed to be on, however you do it, even though it's made with in a way of a bow, but as long as it forms that shape, that's going to be acceptable. And Chabad. Places has a question. What are you asking? They're making a knot on Shabbos. It's not a kesher shel kayama. Every day you undo the knot. Kesher shel kayama needs to last for 24 hours. Argues with Rabbeinu Eliezer. Rabbeinu Eliezer says that you have to make a new knot on the tefillin every day. Because if Rabbeinu Tam says that if according to if you follow Rabbeinu Eliezer, that you make a knot every day, we're here making a knot on Shabbos, it's the kesher. You have to undo the knot every day. So you'll automatically take the knot out. So what's Rabbeinu Eliyahu's raya? He says that Rabbeinu Eliyahu has a raya from the Gemara in Menachos, which that's the sugi of tefillin. It says, from the time you put it on until the time you make the knot. It says, you see, you have to make the knot every day. Rabbeinu Tam says that that's not a raya. That's just talking about that you tighten it. But that's not really making a knot. Reb Moshe, is it freezing every few seconds? So should I go off this and just use my phone? The problem with my phone is that I can't see anyone.
For those of us who came to the shiur in person, Rabbi Smith never freezes.
Is there an electronic device that we as a shear could purchase that would solve this problem?
It's the internet. Can't you put on both your phone and the computer, and just mute one of them?
Okay, let me try. Can you hear me now? Okay, is that good? My picture is bothering me. Let me take off there. Okay. Drag my picture on the yeah. So it's like a foot long. Very, very long. So okay, here's where we're holding. We did we did a new explanation of why on Shabbos you can't
Why is Avram Nassan's internet fine?
they say no, making the bow and tefillin.
Avram Nassan, why aren't you freezing?
He has a sveda on.
What is that?
No, we're hearing, I don't know. You're Rabbi, you're freezing all the time.
Huh. Should be working. I don't know. I don't know what to do. I'm not connected. My phone's connected to the phone network, not the internet. Is yours also free? Oh. Mhm. Okay, Amar Rav Chisda, this is where Rav Chisda says, Amar Rav, someone that purchases tefillin from, he's buying wholesale. He's buying tefillin from someone that has a lot of tefillin. He's probably buying from other people, and he's going to sell it to others. He's going to sell it retail probably. So he's buying it from Mimi Sheina Mumch. He's not buying it from a Sefer or someone that's, he's buying from a guy. So he has to check two of the shel yads and one of the shel reish. We're looking to get a chazaka that these tefillin are good. So you check three, it's going to be good. So two shel yads and one shel reish. Shtayim shel reish v'ach shel yad. Two shel reish and one shel yad. Your three altogether is going to be acceptable. The Gemara asks, Manavshach, what are you gaining? Imichad gavra kazavin livdei shel yad shel reish. If we're dealing with one person with that. You're buying it from someone that's getting it from the Sefer. Is he getting it from one Sefer or is he getting it from many? If he's getting it from one Sefer, so then why don't you just check any three? Three shel yad, three shel reish. Once you have three, then you have an established chazak. It should be good. So, imi trade tlasa gavri zavin kol chad v'chad li b'dika. If the person that you're buying it from is buying it from many different seifrim, then you need to check each and every one. You don't have a chazaka the chazaka that from one of them doesn't apply to the other. It doesn't have the same source. So the Gemara says, Liyolam, Michad Gavra Zavin, really, he's buying from one person. We need him to make sure that he's an expert both in the Shalyad and the Shalreish. Yeah, why isn't it 3 of each? Doesn't say. This is going to be enough somehow. It's a sample. Okay. Aini, is it really so? But Tani Rabba Bar Shmuel B'Tfilin B'Dik Shalish Shal Yad V'Shalish Shal Reis. Rabba Bar Shmuel says that you check 3 Shal Yads and 3 Shal Reishes. My love, Oy Shalish Shal Yad, Oy Shalish Shal Reis. Which means that it's probably either or. It's probably either 3 Shal Yads or 3 Shal Reishes. Now that would mean that you don't need to be confirmed. You don't need to confirm that you're an expert both in the Shal Yad and the Shal Reish. It's enough to confirm that you're an expert in one. That would tell me the whole thing. Gemara says, "Lie, that wasn't the pshat anyway. It's shalish. You have to check 3 tefillin. Mehem Shal Yad, Mehem Shal Reish. Some of them should be a Shal Yad, some should be a Shal Reish, and that resolves it. Okay. But Tani Rav Kana b'tefillin b'dik shtayim. Rav Kana says you only have to check 2. Shal Yad v'Shal Reish. 1 Shal Yad, 1 Shal Reish. That's it. What are you telling me you need 3? 2 is enough. My answer is, oh, that's an easy answer. How many Rebbe Yidam betrays him never chazaka? There's a machlaikis. Rebbe and Rav Shimon ben Gamliel. How many times is a chazaka? If it's 2 or 3 times, what's considered something that can establish the assumption? And this is why he's more chamer. He holds a chazaka takes 3 times. So Rebbe said that what is this based on? It's a woman that gets married, and unfortunately her husband dies, and she remarries again, and unfortunately the husband dies. So according to Rebbe, you can't marry a 3rd time. It's considered a katlanis. So another opinion was no, that it takes 3 times to be a chazaka. Twice is nothing. So here, the one that says that you can check 2 tefillins is Rebbe's opinion that holds that 2 times is a chazaka. 3 would be Reb Shimon ben Gamliel's opinion. The Gemara says, 1 second. If it's following the opinion of Rebbe, then the brisa that Reb Kana taught, let's take a look at the end. If you're buying bundles of tefillin, you're buying it in bulk. So then you have to check the second one, you have to check the third one. Each one you have to check 2.
From the same purchaser in bulk, or just like that?
Probably not. Probably not. Let's see in a moment. Let's see what's going to happen. So, Rebbe, Shlishim Yislay. If it's Rebbe, then why is he checking the 3rd one? You shouldn't have to check the 3rd one. Once you check 2, the Gemara is assuming here that it's one person that you're getting it from. The Gemara says, "My Rebbe b'tzvasim the mitrei shasagavi sovereign." The Rebbe agrees that if you're buying bundles, that you have to check the 3rd one. Why? Because you're buying it from different people. That's how the Gemara answers. The Gemara says, 1 second. If you're buying it from different people, then why only the 3rd one? We were asking, like, as if this is going into the machlaikis, if it's chazakas 2 times or 3 times. And we had a question because it says you have to check the 3rd one. It sounds like it's following another opinion. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with that there's no chazaka. You buy it from him, that it's going to be kosher from him. So the Gemara says, "Enachanami, you're right. You're right. You have to check the 3rd and the 4th and the 5th. And so why did it only say the 3rd? Says the 3rd. It's coming to tell me that there is no chazaka. See, according to Rebbe, once I say you have to check the 3rd one, that's as if, according to Reb Shimon ben Gamliel, I said you have to check the 4th one. Because the 3rd one tells me that there's no chazaka. That's enough already. That tells me everything that I need to know. But obviously, once you say the 3rd, then it would mean the 4th and the 5th as well. Okay. The Mishnah also said, Matzan tzvasa my kriches. Mishnah said, if you find bundles, svasim krichas in bulk, so machshech aleim u'meviam, then you have to wait there till it gets dark and then you bring them in. Okay. So the Gemara asks, my tzvasim, my krichas. What is that? What is that? The two categories that you said. Tzvasim and krichas both mean that they're bundles of or piles, bundles of tefillin. Amrav Yudam Rav in tzvasim and krichas. It's the same thing, but tzvasim is zavi or zuve. Tzvasim are pairs that are tied together, and then there's a bunch of pairs. But you tied each shalyad with the shalreish. Krichas to krichan tuva. Krichas are just bundles large that aren't tied into pairs. Okay, it's the same issue. Is that it's assumed that it's coming from. That's not the assumption. That's talking about the checking. In the Mishnah, the same issue is that you're going to have to go back because there's so many. If you're going to wear one or two pairs based on Tanakama, Ram Gamliel, you're going to need to go back until it gets dark. You're going to still keep going back. So they tell you, why do you come each time and then go back into the city and then go back and then go back? Just stay there the whole time and watch the tefillin, and then you'll bring them all in at once after Shabbos. Once Shabbos is out. If you're anyways going to need to go back to that area after Shabbos, so then they tell you just wait there the whole time. Taisus has an interesting kasha. Madam Taisus. What did we say by Chadashis? Originally, we learned that Chadashis were a kameya, and you don't have to save it. Then the Gemara said Chadashis is not a kameya. Chadashis is just tefillin that don't have the knot in it. Really, it's holy tefillin, but because it doesn't have the knot, I can't make a knot on Shabbos. So what do? I don't have to save it. Over here, I have piles of tefillin. And because I'm going to need to come back after Shabbos anyway to get the end of the pile, because I can't get them, even if I take trips all day, I'm still going to need to come back afterwards. Say, you stay there until it gets dark, and then you bring it back in after it gets dark, all of them in one bundle. The question is, why by Chadashis don't you have to wait there? That's Taisus Kash on the bottom. Interesting question. By Chadashis, you don't have to wait until it gets dark. You just leave them there in the field. Why not? Taisus answers, he says that really, the reason why I have to wait there is because there's a takana of machnis and zug. Because I'm supposed to save each one, so I should start saving them. But they said that because you're going to have to come back anyway, after dark, so you might as well just wait there. But by Chadashis, there was never a takana of machnis and zug, so they don't extend it that I should wait there till it gets dark. The machshech aleim is only an extension of machnis and zug. If I would have to save it, then I have to wait till it gets dark. If I never have to save it, then I don't have. Okay. We're up to the bottom of the page. I'm sorry, I skipped a small piece. We're up to machshech aleim u'mevian. You wait till it gets dark. B'mai le'linu zug. Why don't you bring it in pair by pair? I just spoke about this Gemara. We didn't do it inside. Rav Yitzchak, the son of Rav Yehuda, says that I have an explanation from my father, which is Rav Yehuda. If you're able to finish before it gets dark, then that's what you do. If you can't finish, bring them in, then you have to wait till it gets dark. That was the Gemara that we just spoke of. In a sakana, then you cover them. And then you go away. A sakana is if it's dangerous. We learned in the Mishnah that it's dangerous to wait there. Dangerous to wait there till it gets dark. So you just cover it. You're covering it so it doesn't get destroyed. The Gemara asks 1 second. Vatani, we have a brisa, but sakana melichem pachas mi'arba amas. In a time of a sakana, then you bring it less than 4 amas and you stop, and then you bring another 4 amas and you stop. So each time less than 4 amas. The way it works when you stop every 4 amas is carrying on Shabbos requires akira and anacha. You lift it up and you put it down. If you're walking and you stop, when you start to walk, that's an akira. When you stop, that's a hanacha. That's the placing down. So it says every time, every 4 amas, within 4 amas, you stop, and it's not considered like you carry. And so we have two things to do when there's a sakana. One is that you just cover it. The other one is that you carry it less than 4 amas. So which one is it? The Gemara answers, very good, Ali. The Gemara answers, Amarav lekasha, ha b'sakanas nachri, ha b'sakanas listim. So it depends what type of danger there is. Now Rashi has 2 interpretations, and the second interpretation seems to fit. The first, the way Rashi does is like this. Haba sakanas nachri, he means sakanas nachri doesn't mean that there's a danger of an individual non-Jew. Sakanas nachri it's a danger because the government doesn't allow you to wear tefillin. It's prohibited to wear tefillin. So if you're going to wear tefillin, then stopping every 4 amas, you're creating a big issue here. So what you do is you cover it. Yeah. You cover the tefillin. Haba sakanas listim. The other one is a danger. If we're going to tell you that you should carry, this is a continuation of what you do. The one that says that you carry it less than 4 amas is a continuation. Both of them are a continuation of machshech aleim u'median, that you have to wait there till after it gets dark. So you have to wait there till after it gets dark. It's going to be dangerous to be there with robbers. So for that, they say carry it on Shabbos less than 4 amas. Okay. How did you establish our Mishnah that it's talking about that it's against the law to wear tefillin? So what does Ema say? What does Reb Shimon say? Reb Shimon says, it's no problem. You pass it to a friend, and a friend passes it to another friend until it reaches the outer courtyard.
And the hand is like on the hand.
Yeah, you pass it within 4 amas. So the Gemara is saying like this. That's the case of the Mishnah, that there's a danger, you're not allowed to wear it. The government doesn't allow you to wear tefillin. So Reb Shimon Aimer, that's going to be a whole commotion. Avsha is like conspicuous. It's you're showing off that you're wearing tefillin by passing it from one person. You're going to have many people there. You're making it worse. If that's the case of the Mishnah, that it's against the law, we're on top of Tzadik Zayin Amud Beis, towards the top, 4 lines from the top. The Gemara answers, it's missing. You have to add in some words to make Reb Shimon fit. What do we add in? We say it like this. When do we say that you cover it? That's only if it's a danger of the government. But if you have the other danger, where you're afraid that if you're going to stay there till after it gets dark, there's going to be a danger because of bandits. So then melichem pachas midal amas, and you can carry less than 4 amas. Taisva says over here, that Reb Shimon didn't actually say that you can carry less than 4 amos. Reb Shimon said you pass it to a friend, and a friend passes it to a friend. But he says that Reb Shimon would agree to this. In other words, this solution of passing it to a friend and a friend to a friend, you could do yourself. You walk less than 4 amos and stop, and walk less than 4 amos and stop, and do that. Just Reb Shimon says it's better to do passing it to a friend, as we'll see in a moment. But Reb Shimon would agree. Taisa says that if you didn't have other people there, that you can do it like that as well. Okay, Reb Shimon Omer, now the way we just said it, we're talking about where the Chachamim also hold that you can do less than 4 amos, just not without, just the Chachamim said that you do it with walking less than 4 amos, you stop and then you continue walking. Reb Shimon says you pass it to a friend within 4 amos and you just pass it. But my kamiflagi, what is the machlekes? Marsaver paches mi'arba amos adif. Tanakama holds that it's better to walk less than 4 amos. The Amrit nice nachaver v'chaver lachaver abshem milsa the Shabbos. If you pass from one to another, then there's a secondary concern. A lot of people are going to see what you're doing on Shabbos. You're going to involve a lot of people in this, and people are going to think either that this is Shabbos is not strict, or people are going to think that you are actually violating Shabbos. The more people that get involved in this, the more people are going to be confused, and you're carrying. Yeah, but if you right, the question is, should you use more people or should you use less people? Tanakama holds that you use less people. Try to do it with yourself, because we don't want to use any more people than necessary, because we don't want it to create this confusion. Are they being Machal Shabbos? Are they not? So Marsav if the other one says no, pass it to another person. The Amrit Melichem Pachsim Arba Amos, because if we say that you should carry less than 4 amos, sometimes you may make a mistake. You may end up carrying just a bit over the line. Right? I think it's 4 amos. How big is 4 amos? 5 feet, 6 feet, 8 feet. I don't know. This you're going to go with different cheetahs. You're going to end up carrying. So it's better to pass, and if there's going to be more people there, then you'll make sure that you don't end up violating it. Mishnah said the same thing applies to a son. You pass this child to a friend, and for a friend, even if it's 100. What is the child doing there? We already gave the answer when we learned the Mishnah. We're talking about that the mother gave birth in the field. What does it mean if there are 100? What are you trying to tell me that if there's 100 people? Mars explains like this. See, you know, some parents, especially with the first baby, they don't let anyone hold the baby. After that, they're looking for anyone can hold the baby. They don't let. So we say, even if it's 100 people, we're talking about even though it's not as comfortable to pass the baby to 100 people. That's not so comfortable, but nevertheless, that's better than to carry it himself less than 4 amos. In other words, better than to have the person stopping, stop, go. It's better to use the more people that you can. Rabbi Yehuda says, nice in Adam Chavis. Person can give a barrel. Do the same thing with the barrel. You pass to a friend and a friend to a friend. We're talking about if it's out of the food. If you pass the barrel into the tum or out of the tum, the sages said no, you can't put a barrel out of the barrel. Let's say,
Rabbi, we kind of lost your volume.
No.
Sorry.
No, we're holding with Rabbi Yehuda says that you can do the same thing with the barrel passes from another.
Yitzi, shut off Yitzi's Liebensburger.
You hear me now? Sounds so clear.
No, you disappeared. That you're a tenth of the volume.
What does that mean? The volume disappeared?
Now you're back. Now you're back.
Okay.
Whatever just happened.
Okay. So, Rabbi Yehuda says that you can do the same thing with the barrel. You can pass it out of the tchum from one person to another person to another person. The question is, the sages told to Rabbi Yehuda that you can't do that because the barrel has its own tchum. It means it has its own residency that you can't move it any further than it's allowed to go. What is its residence for Shabbos? Whatever the residence of the owner is. So what are you saying? You can pass it from one person to another person. You can't do that. Rabbi Yehuda says no. Barrel can get passed if people have different tchum. One person put his Eruv here, one person put it there, so they can pass it and they can keep walking as far as they want to go. As far as they're able to go based on the tchum. Rabbi Yehuda the Gemara says, Rabbi Yehuda, the Tanan, Rabbi Yehuda doesn't hold of what it says in the Mishnah. You have to follow, all utensils follow the owner. Can't pass it any further than its original owner. Very interesting. We're saying like this, that you're not actually passing a barrel. You're passing the contents of a barrel. You're pouring it from your jug into the other person's jug. And then that person can walk however far he wants. Now the problem is that, but the water should have also a residence. Water, wine, we're saying it's water. The water should also have its residence. It's a water barrel from the place of the owner. So how could the water travel? So we say Rabbi Yehuda is following his opinion that says water is not significant. Ditnan, it works like this. Rabbi Yehuda paiter b'mayim pnei she'ein b'hem mamish. Rabbi Yehuda, what's happening is like this. If someone borrows ingredients to make bread, some ingredients from this person, some ingredients from that person. So this new loaf of bread is stuck in a location where each of the owners, if this one's tchum went this circle, this one's tchum was that area, this one's the eggs came from someone else, it's over there. So you're stuck in the residence that combines all of them, that everyone is allowed to. You can't carry it to one side because the flour came from him, the water came from him, and the eggs came from there, and all of this is on Yom Tov. You'd be stuck. You're baking the bread on Yom Tov because it's not Shabbos, but Yom Tov also has tchumen. So you're stuck in that location. Rabbi Yehuda comes along and says that ignore the water guy. The water guy is insignificant because the water gets absorbed into the bread. It's bottled to everything else, and the water guy does not restrict you. His location doesn't restrict you. It's everyone else that restricts you. So here what we're saying is like this. Rabbi Yehuda holds that you can pour water from one barrel to another barrel, and the water doesn't restrict the person how far he can go, and it follows the barrel, and the barrel can go wherever the new owner can take it. The Gemara says it's a little bit of a problem. The sages said, this barrel can't go any further than the owner. Zu is the pronoun, but it's referring to the barrel. So the Gemara says, it's not zu, it's not the barrel, it's what's in the barrel. That's what they meant. Because that's what the sages say, that the water, the residence of the water is also significant. The owner of the water, that's also significant. And so therefore, I can't let the water go any further than that person could go. What are you telling me that Rabbi Yehuda holds that the water guy is insignificant because the water is not significant and we don't care about that? That's only if it gets absorbed into a dough, but if it's still sitting alone, then we don't say it's significant. When it gets absorbed into a dough, then the water disappears. So we say that I don't care where that water came from, where the owner's residence was for Shabbos. I can ignore it. But Hashta B'Kdeira Rabbi Yehuda Lo Batli Beinayu Batli Tanya Rabbi Yehuda My Melech B'Telim Yisrael B'Telim B'Telim says like this. Rabbi Yehuda says clearly that if I'm making bread, I can ignore the.
Rabbi, we're losing you again. I think when someone else turns on, Avi just turned on his phone, we lose you.
It's not my fault this time. It's not my fault.
Am I now?
Yeah, mute Avi. Avi.
Oh, I'm not even the host. One second. The other guy's this.
Libby. Let them know.
We have a accountant here who says that the people who attend the shiur in person has 0% technical errors.
Okay, now I can mute everyone. Okay. Like that. Okay. Do you hear me now? Okay. So what we're saying is that we thought we had it all resolved by saying that Rabbi Yehuda holds the water is insignificant. Turns out that Rabbi Yehuda only holds the water is insignificant if it gets absorbed into the bread. But we have a Mishnah that says Rabbi Yehuda holds that if you're making a stew, then the water and the salt does not become insignificant because it's still there. In a bread, it becomes insignificant because it becomes absorbed in. But in the stew, not so. If that's the case, then for sure, if you have a barrel of water, even according to Rabbi Yehuda, you can't just let it go wherever the next person is. It always retains the residence of the original owner. Elama Rava, a Rabba. Hacha b'chava shekansa shvisa, umayim shleikana shvisa skinan. The butler chavis legabi mayim. Here we're talking about that the barrel, the barrel taka has an owner, but the water doesn't have. It didn't have an owner when Shabbos came in. It's water that was flowing. You took it out of the river on Shabbos. How do we able to do that? Whatever they have on Yom Tov, it's not a problem. Huh? Yeah, it got filled up by the rain. So it was like kind of shvisa. There was no shvisa. It didn't have an owner. So when would Rabbi Yehuda say there was an issue? If it had an owner, but it didn't have an owner when Shabbos came in. And Rabbi Yehuda holds kiditanan. So what we're saying is that the water doesn't have an owner. What about the barrel? So we say that the barrel becomes bottled to the water. It goes like this.
Usually my land acquires for me.
Yeah, but let's say you took it from just the flowing. It wasn't this water wasn't in your land when Shabbos came in, or when Yom Tov came in.
Landed in my front yard. You might.
Yeah, that's fine. But flowing water or water that's hefker doesn't have a actual location. When it doesn't have a tchum, we're talking about can you move this water out of the tchum?
But you're saying the barrel belongs to the land and not the water. So the truth is my property acquires for me.
Oh, no, I understand it
So
belongs
now
to
my
you.
water.
I understand it belongs to you. The question is, what is its shrisa? What is its residence for Shabbos? You can't move an item more than 2,000 amas out of its residence. So we're saying over here that this water didn't have a residence. Why? Because no one owned it when Shabbos came in. It was flowing water.
This whole case needs a lot of explaining because A, if it's out of the tchum, so how did someone get there to find it? And B, the whole hector that we rely on, like, or on this past your friend, is only because it's an important, valuable item that we can't afford to lose and leave it here out for Shabbos and get damaged, like chili. Bottle of water that was filled up over Shabbos, doesn't have a shortage of rain.
Okay, so here's the story. It's not so complicated. We're dealing with Yom Tov.
Okay,
People out to carry. They're going on Talucha.
fine.
So the problem is that they meet up with another group that's out of water, and they're going in another direction. The first people have to stop because they're at the edge of the tchum. So they say, "Oh, we have water. Would you like some of our water?" So they give them their water. So, but the problem is that water can't move further than the first people can go. So what we're saying is that the water can. Why? Because this water was not really theirs when Shabbos, when Yom Tov came in. This water they just took from a well that they were passing by, and from a stream that they were passing by. So it doesn't have any limitations on it. So it can continue. The barrel, the bottle that they're giving it to. So before we said that you exchanged, you poured from one to another. Now we're saying it's not necessary to say that because the barrel becomes bottled to the water. And if the water doesn't have a residence, so the barrel also, as we see in a Mishnah, if someone carries a person on a bed or a stretcher, Potter afalamita, he's exempt for carrying the person because we have a rule, Chai Noisias Atzmai, on Shabbos you're not allowed to carry. But a living person carries himself. It's not biblically prohibited. And what about the bed? It says, well, because the bed is bottled to the person. It's not significant. It's not like you carried a bed. You only carried a person, and the person you're potter. The same as if you carry food less than the amount of carrying on Shabbos. What's the amount of food? I think it's the size of a fig. So, right? Ta'ina. It depends what it was, right? The animal, the whatever it is. So you're putter on the keli. So here also there's water. You're exempt for the keli. Masav Rabbi Yosef. Rabbi Yosef has a question. Rabbi Yehuda Imer b'shayara nation adam chavas lachaber b'chaber lachaber b'shayara imshlei b'shayara like. Rabbi Yosef has a question. Rabbi Yehuda says this is only permissible in a caravan because in a caravan people are traveling and it's dangerous if they go without water. But in a regular case, not. And here you're saying it as if in any case you can do it. It's not true. We have this brisa that says it's only permissible in a caravan. What's the problem? We're talking about a caravan. We're talking about people that are traveling, and that's the story. Abaya says Abaya says what we're saying is in a caravan you have a heter. Even if the water was owned, even if the barrel was owned, you can still pass them the water because of the danger that they shouldn't go without water. But if it's not a caravan, then you have the heter. Then we say that the water is talking about that it came from a stream that on Shabbos or on Yom Tov rather that never had any residency when the Yom Tov came in. It wasn't owned. And the barrel, it doesn't matter who owned the barrel because the barrel becomes bottled to the water. Abaye has a teretz for us. It says it could be that when did we say that a caravan has a special heter? That's even if the water was owned and the barrel was owned when Shabbos came in. Rashi says here we're dealing with that everything was not owned. And who is? When they said Amrulai, who are the sages that said that you can't do this? It's stuck. You can't just pass it from one person to another person. Back in the Mishnah. Follow what's going on. There's a machlekes about hefker. Yeah, it's kind of shvisa. Hefker items that are ownerless. can they be moved more than 2,000 amas away from their location that they are on Shabbos or Yom Tov, when Shabbos or Yom Tov comes in? Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri holds that their location, that's where it's restricted to. And the Tanakama holds that it's not restricted because there was no owner there. My like the halach yesim meragli abaylim, but it says you can't. But they said that you can't go any further than the owner. If it's hefker, then there is no owner. So the Gemara answers, doesn't mean more than the owner. It means more than vessels that have an owner, which means that they'd be restricted to the limitation of the owner's residency. So to these utensils can only go as far as, or this water and utensil can only go as far as, if it would have an owner, as far as it could go, which is its location, 2,000 amas from its location that it was when Shabbos came in. Let's start the next Mishnah. We had this Mishnah in Shabbos. We learned it, and if it was quoted, if it was Mamish Mishnah in Shabbos as well. Someone's standing or sitting on a threshold, and he's reading from a sefer. Sefer means a scroll. And it rolled out of his hand, one end rolled out of his hand. Just rolls down. So, you can roll it back. Very interesting. Fishing line. Roll it back. But it's only by a sefer. See. We didn't say what the askufa is. We didn't say if the askufa is Rosh Hashanah, Rosh Hashanah, Carmel. We didn't say anything. It's like really in the dark over here. We don't know what the case is. If you're on the roof, now you're mamash in Rosh Hashanah. It rolls out of his hand. It falls down the side of the house. If it's within 10 tfachim, or before it reaches 10 tfachim from the ground, so that means even though outside it's Rishus Harabim, but because it's above 10 tfachim, it's considered a makam p'tur. It's an exempt area, free zone. So you can roll it back. Once it reaches 10 tfachim, then you just turn it over so it shouldn't get ruined by whatever wind or whatever dirt that's flying around. You just turn it over, but you can't roll it back. Rabbi Yudaimer, afilu ein masulik minartzal kumlein machat goy layatzlei. No, if it's when does the back switch? Kumlayachut goy layatzlei. The Rabbi Yudah says that as long as it isn't touching the ground, you can still pull it back. Rabbi Shimon Aimer afilu bar tzasme goy layatzlei. Rabbi Shimon is even more lenient. That we don't have anything that's a rabbinic law that's going to get in the way of protecting Kisvei HaKodesh, holy writing. The Gemara asks the obvious question. When you started the Mishnah, you spoke about a threshold. What type of threshold are you talking about that you said you can roll it back in? If he's in Rosh Hashanah and it rolled into Rosh Hashanah, what are you saying? There's a problem. You're not concerned that you're going to pull it back if it drops. Let's say it drops. There's a concern. If we allow you to pull it back in, we're afraid that if it falls entirely, you may grab it and bring it in. So we don't want you to do anything usually in that case. You just turn it over or whatever. The Gemara says, Mani Reb Shimon. We're following the last opinion of the Mishnah that was Reb Shimon. Reb Shimon says, it's only a rabbinic law. Why is it only a rabbinic law? Because the end of it is in your hands. It's not mamish in Rosh Hashanah. It still has its string attached in the Rosh Hashanah. So it's only a rabbinic law. So we allow you to do it according to Reb Shimon. Gemara says, 1 second. Ema Seifa. You're telling me that the first case of the Mishnah is Reb Shimon. Let's look at further. It says, Rabbi Yudaimer filim seluk minar telam leichot goy layatzlei. Reb Shimon Aimer fila bar tatzma goy layatzlei. Reb Shimon is in the end of the Mishnah. You're telling me the beginning of the Mishnah is Reb Shimon. Reisha v'sefer Reb Shimon mitzvah Reb Yehuda. The beginning of the Mishnah is Reb Shimon. The end of the Mishnah is Reb Shimon. The middle is Reb Yehuda. The Gemara does this all the time, and it doesn't like it to do this. The only difference is usually the Gemara doesn't have any names in the. There's no names in the Mishnah, and we're just trying to attribute it to a certain Tana. So we'll say Reisha is Reb Yehuda, and the Sefer is Reb Yehuda, and the middle is Reb Meir. And we don't. It doesn't say any names in the Mishnah. And we're just, or maybe only the middle name. It says here, I clearly have Reb Shimon in the Seifa, and I don't have him in the Reisha. And we're saying that it's nevertheless Reb Shimon is a little bit odd. So Amar Rav Yehuda in. Rav Yehuda says, Rav Yehuda is the Amir Rav Yehuda. He says, you're right. Reisha v'sefer Reb Shimon mitzvah Reb Yehuda. That's what we're gonna have to say. Why are you allowed to roll it back to you? It's Reb Shimon's lenient view that holds that when it comes to Kisvei HaKodesh, you're allowed to pull it back, even if it's a Rishus HaRabim and you're in a Rishus HaYachid. Rabba Amar Hachabas Kufan addresses Askina. You're right, it's a Rishus HaYachid. But there's a big problem with this. The problem is it's Askufan addresses. There's people that walk on it. And if you're going to leave it there, Mishum B'zayin Kisvei HaKodesh HaRabban, a special leniency. If it would be hanging down, so then we won't have that leniency. But here, because it's mamish on the ground, so we have a leniency to pull it back. Eisvei Abaya, Abaya asks Rabba. We have a brisa. It says that if it's within 4 cubits, knows it only rolled within 4 cubits, then you can roll it back. If it rolled more than 4 cubits, then it's a problem. If we're talking about an area that people are going to walk on, look at what's going on over here. We allowed you to take from Rishus HaRabim into Rishus HaYachid because people could step on it. But we're not going to allow you to take Dalet Amas in Rishus HaRabim. To cross the zone was no problem. And in the zone, and 4 Amas in Rishus HaRabim is no worse than crossing the zone from Rishus HaRabim into Rishus HaYachid. And that's going to be a problem. We're not dealing with that the Askufa is Rishus HaYachid. The Askufa, the threshold here that your person is standing on is really a Carmelis. It means it's a private area, but there's no walls. Could be within 10 tefachim from the ground, even though it's 4 cubits. I think it's considered a Carmelis also. If it's within 4 amas, even if it would drop, and I would bring it back to the Carmelis, from Rishus HaRabim to a Carmelis, I would not be required to bring a sin offering, because Rishus HaRabim to a Carmelis is not biblically forbidden. So Sharalei Rabbanan. So in a case where it's still attached to your hands, so the Rabbanan allowed you to do this. Is this because of Bizayin? It shouldn't be.
This is talking about if you're holding a scroll and the part falls out, you're still holding.
You're still holding the hand. Yeah. So the Rabbanan allowed you to pull it back in. Why? Right. Or the way Miami used to be in the winter where it didn't rain. I don't know what's going on. No, that's another issue of rolling something. There's another issue of rolling something, like a board. The Gemara Shabbos we had, if you can flip it over and then flip it and then flip it, or if you roll it on the ground. We said that was considered carrying. Actually, that was a discussion. Here we're talking about we mamish holding one end, but it's just the other end is in Rishus HaRabim. Rabbinically, there's an issue because in case it would fall, you may end up bringing it. So, because it's anyways a Carmelis, so we allow you to do it. But if it's out of 4 amas, if it would fall, it would be a Chiyuv Chatas because you're carrying 4 amas in a Rishus HaRabim. That's biblically prohibited. So we don't let you do it. Rabbi Yehuda held. We're dealing with Rabbi Yehuda here. We're trying to say that it's not Reb Shimon's opinion, right? Trying to say it's Rabbi Yehuda's opinion. And Rabbi Yehuda holds of Gzeira, that in case it falls, you may end up bringing it. Now, there's another issue here. I have a Rishus Rabbim on one side, I have a Rishus Yachid on the other side, and I'm standing in the Carmel. So we said that you're allowed to bring it back. The problem is that maybe I'm going to bring it back. If it falls, I'm going to bring it into the Rishus Yachid. And even though I'm passing through a Carmelis, but that's still a prohibition. For example, the Chitema, and if you'll say, Kivin the Mafsekas Carmelis Leslamba, if you say that the fact that there's a Carmelis in the center is going to exempt you because you go from Rosh Hashanah into the Carmelis, from Carmelis into Rosh Hashanah, you're going to be exempt. It's not so. If someone carries something above his head for 4 cubits, so above his head is considered a makam tur. So he starts with under 10 tvachim, but he takes it over his head and then he puts it down. Now, the fact that it went out of the zone of the Rishus Rabbim and then back in doesn't matter. Still chayiv. So what are you telling me, that you're going to cross through a Carmelis and you should be exempt? Even if you cross through the Carmelis, you're still chayiv, as you see from that case. We're dealing with the threshold was a long area, and we don't have that concern. We think that by the time he gets through, he's for sure going to stop somewhere in the middle. It's not going to be a problem. And in the meantime, he's going to remind himself that he shouldn't be carrying. So he's going to stop. He's not going to come to a chiyuv chatas from Rosh Hashanah to Rosh Hashanah via Carmelis, because the Carmelis was so long. You don't have to say that the askufa was long. Stam kisvei kodesh yunei meinen bo manachlo. Stam kisvei kodesh, the person's going to look at. Once he gets to the Carmelis, he's going to open it up and stop. And then let me read this book. Maybe he's going to look at it right away. Then he's going to walk straight in and look at it again in the Rosh Hashanah. He's going to be carrying from Rosh Hashanah to Rosh Hashanah. We're following the opinion of Ben Azai that says walking is like standing. That means that according to Ben Azai, if I pass through a Carmelis, it's as if I stop there. And if I stop there, then I carried from Rosh Hashanah to Carmelis, which is exempt. Carmelis to Rosh Hashanah, which is exempt, and we don't make a gzeira because you would anyways never come to a chiyuv chatas. Ben Azai agrees that if you throw it through a Carmelis, you're going to be chayiv. It's only when you're walking through that you're exempt. So the Gemara says that's not a problem. Dam Rabbi Yechon made Ben Azai ben Zarek. So Ben Azai is maida that if you throw it's a problem. Probably Ravada. Ravada Barava Zaysimeres. Ravada Barava says, "In Mizrakin Kisvei Kodesh." You don't throw holy books; they don't get thrown around, so we don't have that concern. Okay, let's leave it over here.